Back with markets at noon here, and there is so much to talk about in terms of which stocks are buzzing, so many earnings reactions. But the one basket to watch out for today is the Adani Group of stocks, and let's take a look at why these stocks are in focus. Because Gautam Adani and his nephew Sagar will pay $18 million to settle the US SEC's charges. The Adani Group faces allegations of false statements regarding Adani Green Energy Limited. This settlement could pave the way for the conglomerate's return to international markets. We have on the show joining us Mr. Sanjay Asher, the senior partner at Crawford Bailey and Company, along with Deven Choksey, managing director at DR Choksey, now joining us to discuss this development, break it down on a market level as well as on a legal level, what this means. Mr. Asher, let's begin with you and help us understand, break it down for our viewers. What exactly does request for entry of final judgment on consent? What does this term mean in US legal terms?
To my mind, in my view, this is just a final approval since SEC has already agreed to settle the matter and have a settlement of this particular allegations. The Department of Justice just has to approve it. To my mind, it's a procedural aspect. Substantially, the SEC has accepted to settle the case. Now, the SEC would have agreed to settle the case because it would have thought that there's no point chasing this particular matter because it may not have strong legal merits in the matter. And therefore, it was like flogging a dead horse, if I may say so. And therefore, they have agreed to settle the matter, number one. Number two, if there was a substance in the allegations, then SEC itself would not have agreed to settle the matter and would not have agreed to suggest to the Department of Justice that, yes, we have agreed to settle the matter, and now it is the Department of Justice to provide their approval.
Right, so that's as far as the judgment is concerned, but let's also get Deven Choksey into this conversation. Mr. Choksey, afternoon, Ashesha this side. What does this really mean for the entire Adani group of stocks? And I understand that the entire group has not reacted as much today, but directionally, is this a big relief for the entire group, especially in terms of being able to raise more capital in the global market?
Yes, good afternoon, Aisha. Well, I think 2 or 3 points importantly. First and foremost, as you rightly mentioned, I think they are the infrastructure group and probably they require, additional amount of capital to be raised for expanding the infrastructure, and particularly, I think the power and power-related infrastructure that they are executing, along with, the road and airports. So this is one area where probably, this particular subject of justice coming in, I would think that is opening up the possibility for them to raise both the debt as well as equity part of the money from global investors, particularly the ESG compliant funds, which are typically wanting to invest into companies which are ESG compliant. So certainly, this is one breather, as I would call it as, which comes very clearly. Second most important aspect, the repricing of the debt. Many a times, you have the expensive debt in the books, which requires to be repriced from time to time. And that's where probably, this particular judgment gives the clarity to the lender. And in such situation, the repricing of the debt do take place. The third most important aspect, and which is very crucial here, that the group is basically executing significantly large amount of projects, and they have started compounding EBITDA growth rate at the rate of around 20% across the group assets. Now, if this importantly, generating the cash flows into the books, if the company resolves all the kind of embargoes which have up till now affected them, then in that real situation, the growth takes precedence as against defense, which up till now they've been doing in the court. So it is more importantly that investors look at the company more favorably because the growth engine could possibly now start firing at the higher speed. So these are the 2 or 3 main important points as I see it, from the perspective of capital market and the investors who look at the group and for investing for us.
Switching focus again, Mr. Asher, talk to us about what this means in terms of the overhangs that Adani Group has been seeing over the last couple of years. Is this effectively the biggest legal relief for the Adani Group since the Hindenburg episode? And could the proposed monetary settlement close all major legal overhangs for the Adani Group in the US?
Yes, in my view, it closes all the overhangs which they have in the US courts or in the US territory. So, to my mind, from a legal perspective, it is a big win as far as Adani is concerned. It puts an end to all the allegations which third party or which the SEC or any other agency had put against the Adani individuals or the Adani Group as a whole. So I think now Adani will have a clean sheet from a legal perspective, so they can do what they want in terms of in the US market.
Clean sheet
From a
from a
business
legal perspective, that's the word coming in from Mr. Asher. Mr. Choksey, now that this is a big positive, do you have a view on any of the listed counters? Do you have a buy rating on any of those?
Yes, we have been selectively buying into Adani Enterprise, Adani Ports, and Adani Energy Solutions. I think which somewhere we found that I think the opportunity is attractive enough for these three companies. I think at the same time, the greens, Adani Greens, I think looks relatively more stable and interesting also. So yes, I think we believe that this company's infrastructure story is continuing. If you look at the monetization path for airport assets, if you look at a monetization path for the road assets, which belong to the Adani Enterprise, also, I think the growth and expansion path for the data center business in Adani Enterprise, we believe that I think each of these areas, they are actually having the relatively better amount of clarity on the execution side of the business. And that's where we believe that the opportunity is ripe. And such kind of overhangs, when they go out, particularly, I think it allows the investors to come with confidence into the business. And that's why I mentioned that the growth is returning back from the defense situation in which they were up till now operating for last 1.5 years.
Okay. And Mr. Asher, could there still be any more civil liabilities or shareholder lawsuits even after an SEC settlement? Can you help us understand that?
Any shareholder can take out a what they could call it as a class action suit. But I don't think that will hold any water from a legal perspective, especially when SEC has agreed to settle the matter and have a settlement proposition as far as the allegations are concerned. So, in other words, the lawsuit will not have any teeth. It will not hold water. Having regard to all the facts and circumstances and having regard to the fact that SEC has agreed to settle the matter. If there was substance in the allegation, then SEC would not have agreed to settle the matter. Otherwise, they would also be made a part of class action suit.
So that's on the legal front. Mr. Choksey, lastly, give us a sense on how do you think the DIIs will now respond to Adani? Do you believe there could be more portfolio allocation within DIIs for the Adani Group of stocks?
No, I think you're absolutely right. So these are some of the businesses which are annuity businesses. I think you look at road business, you look at airport business, you look at power business. I think these are many of the businesses are purely annuity business, even transmission business. I think more or less, I think it is understood that it is completely annuity business. And now, when I think some of the larger insurance funds, some of the larger long-term investment funds, including I think the pension funds, where up till now the allocation was not happening because of reason. I guess I think that she's clearing the path now, at least for them to invest money. Because some of these funds, they do invest, along with some of the sovereign funds, they do invest for next 15 to 25 to 40 years. And that's where I think they would like to see the larger amount of visibility. Not very surprising though, yesterday SBI MF, I think, ended up buying the stake from GQG Partners, who offered this particular stock into the market yesterday. Not very surprising because I think this kind of activities definitely I think mean business for some of the larger funds. And I believe that this is a very qualitative business in the infrastructure space as an India proxy. It could possibly invite some of the larger global players to look at India from investment perspective, given the kind of strength that this group has demonstrated in executing some of the infrastructure projects. So I would remain relatively, and they also have the capex discipline in place, along with I think the higher amount of focus on generating the EBITDA, and at the same time I think managing the ratio between EBITDA to the debt part. So frankly, I believe that I think this opens up big time possibilities, and some of these companies are definitely I think good for long term investors, like I mentioned a while back.
Okay, point taken. On that note, Mr. Asher as well as Mr. Choksey, thank you so much for your time. We'll let you go on that.
Thank you
Viewers,
so
that was a
much.
conversation trying to decode